Hello everyone, this is Kathleen, and I'm so glad to be here today to spend a little time with you. I have had 2 or 3 people ask me about how I made my just semi-soft fabric cover, and I thought I had a video about this, but apparently I don't. So per viewer request, here I am today to teach you how to do this. It's easy and you're going to love it. It's very versatile. I use this a lot in journals, especially one signature journals. Let's talk about what you need first. You need a cracker box. That's what I'm using. And this is just slightly more heavy than maybe cereal box, but I also use cereal box and all kinds of just that thin food packaging kind of cardboard. And that's what makes it semi hard. I do have a video doing this kind of cover to make a hardback fabric covered journal, and I will list that one below. But I will also make a playlist of all of the covers that I have made so that you can see basically what I do. Because there's a few different things. I have done new spines on recycled books and that kind of thing. So I will make a playlist. But meanwhile, today we're going to do what I call a semi-soft fabric covered journal cover. And it's like the one that I just made for the Shabby Floral journal that I flipped through a couple of days ago. So what you need is the cardboard, and you can cut it to whatever size you want to match the signatures that you're making. I'm going to do an inch spine, and I'm going to make it rounded. That's what I do most often. So you need the cover cut to size. I have rounded the corners, but that's not necessary. Then you need some matte gel medium or Fabri-Tac, whichever you like. You can use other glues too, but if you use a wet glue like Mod Podge, it will possibly show through the fabric. So I like to use the matte medium. Sometimes I use just Fabri-Tac, and I will use Fabri-Tac when we fold the fabric over to the inside. And then I need 2 end papers to go on the inside to cover up the edges of the fabric. I need a spine piece of fabric to reinforce and finish the inside of the spine, and then I need the cover fabric, and I'm using this. This is what is in Joann's. It's called decorator canvas. It's kind of a canvas weave and a little bit of body, a little bit more body than regular cotton, quilter's cotton, although you can use that too, but this just has a slightly more sturdy feel to it. Okay, so you cut a piece of fabric, approximately the size that you're going to need, and you want to put, about 3/4 of an inch around the edges, and then we're going to fold those in. Okay, but and then the other thing I do is I starch it. I use a heavy spray starch and iron it well so that I don't have any wrinkles on the outside. So that's the fabric is prepared. So first let's put the 2 halves together here, and I'll show you how I do that well. So I just use the scoreboard and make scores just next to each other, and this is going to make it so that the spine will round. So I do that on this one, and then I do it the same way on this one. Lines that are parallel, then it will bend. Now you can see that I've already sanded it a little. This is just to take the slick off the cardboard and give it just a little bit of a tooth for the glue to grab later. So I'm just going to glue these two spines together. I'm just going to use Fabri-Tac for that. So when I cut this, when I trimmed the cardboard to make the cover, I just used the natural folds from the box. And that gives me a double spine, which is going to be really sturdy. And I just want to make sure that it's the same. Okay, now I'm going to let this dry because it needs to be completely dry. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Now we're going to glue this to the fabric. This fabric has a stripe, so obviously I'm going to need to get it on straight based on the stripe. And luckily I can see the stripes through here. So I'm going to line it up, you know, along that stripe. And then it should be straight. And this is the brand that I use. It's a Hobby Lobby brand, Master's Touch. And I'm going to be generous, but I don't want it glopping through on the front. So I'm going to make sure that I get it spread out well. And I'm going to pay particular attention to this edge that has the crack in it where the two pieces went together. Okay, let me put that aside, and we'll move the mat out of the way. And then I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm going to line up, as I said, against that stripe. Turn it over and smooth that out. Yeah, okay. Let me just see if I've got it straight. Yes. So now I'm going to take my brayer and just rub that down. Sometimes around the edges I don't get enough. So I want to make sure that I've got glue that goes all the way to the edge. Okay. Now I'll do it on this side. One of the benefits of putting starch on the fabric is it helps block up some of the holes where the glue might squish through. Okay. Now I'm going to let that dry for a minute. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So now we're going to trim around about, as I say, about 3/4 of an inch around the edge. Okay, and now we're going to clip the corners. Not all the way, but close. So let me get in here close so that I can show you about how far away you want to be. So I'm going to do that. If you're not rounding your corners, you don't have to do this. You can just do a mitered edge, but I kind of like the corners to be rounded. Now we're going to use Fabri-Tac to fold the edges in. Oh, and you might also want some clips. You can use these kind of like bulldog clips, or you can just use regular paper clips. But you need a couple more fingers. So let me, we're gonna start in the corner, and we're gonna do the top first and the bottom up and then the sides. So I'm gonna put some glue here in the corner, and then we're gonna start folding that in. And you can see that the fabric is gonna overlap. It has to in order to get around the corner. Okay, so then I can just put a little clip on it to hold that, and then go on to the next corner. I fold kind of the middle part in first, and then kind of bring the edges around. And this is going to be covered up by the end papers, so you don't need to really worry that, you know, as long as you get most of the edges covered, then you'll be okay. And sometimes this kind of thing takes a little practice, so, you know, give it a try. And if it doesn't work the first time, because sometimes it is a little hard to turn that curve, so you can see now that this doesn't have any glue because the glue has all been covered up there. So you may need to put just a little more glue to kind of hold that part down. The other thing that you can do, if you don't round the corners and you just do a mitered edge, sometimes you can just do book corners, metal book corners, because that can sometimes help cover up some of the, you know, mistakes that don't look as good. Okay, we'll just use a paper clip on that one for now. And we'll do this last one. See? Okay, I'll put that on there. So now we're going to finish folding this down. So I'm just going to put glue along here. The nice thing about using Fabri-Tac for jobs like this is the glue is made for fabric, number one. It grabs it and it dries pretty fast, or it grabs pretty fast, which is really nice. So you just bring that down and then kind of hold it until it grabs. You've got just, you know, a minute to kind of get it glued on there. And then flip it over and do the bottom along here. Pay attention to those cracks or folds. Then kind of start in the middle and then fold that down. So So now I'm going to take these off so that you can see a little better. Again, start in the middle and then kind of spread out toward the edge. Get it tight up against there. You want that to be a nice, clean fold. And then here's the last one. Start in the middle and smooth to the edge. Okay, there it's covered. You can see the edges here. The corners are nice and rounded. So this is the front. So I'm going to mark that. I'm going to put an X there so that I know which is the front. Now I want to kind of create that round. Right now the spine is square, but I want kind of a rounded spine. So I'm now going to take just this bone folder and I'm just going, this is why it needed to be glued and dried, because now I'm going to push these and round them. It's pretty stiff, so you kind of have to break into those lines. And the score lines will just help it to bend. If you have one layer, it just doesn't take this much work usually. But all I'm trying to do is just get a little bit of a round on there. So I want all of those little score marks to kind of bend equally. So right now I'm just pushing against my finger, and as it starts to bend, then it gets a little easier. Okay, that's looking a little better. And now you can kind of see on the inside how that makes a little bit of a dish. Okay, so now what we need to do, the next step, is to put our end papers in. I want it to be just a little bit less than the cover itself. So I'm just going to now, I have printed this on 65-pound cardstock. So not heavy, because I do want it to be semi-soft, but it is a little bit, it will cover this heavier fabric a little better than just regular copy paper. So now I'm just going to use Fabri-Tac again. Paying attention to where that covers on the inside edge. And then I'll take a brayer of some kind and smush it. So, okay, now let me repeat that on this side. So now it's ready, that's glued down, and it's ready for this spine fabric. I'm going to use just a couple of pieces of lace on the top and the bottom. So that there's a little lace that's kind of peeking out at the top. And it just kind of helps sort of finish that off, I think. And now I just need to glue this fabric on over that, and then it will be ready. The cover will be ready for the signatures. So I'm going to just put glue. And by the way, I have starched this also. That gives it just a little bit more body. Now I'm going to pay attention to the curve as well as that bend along the edge. Because I want to get the fabric glued smoothly. So here, that looks good. Okay, and now I'm going to just keep kind of working on that spine where it's curved and just kind of round it a little more. All I'm trying to do is just push that spine into a little bit of a curve. This is essentially done now. It's finished on the inside. Got this nice rounded spine and ready for signatures. It's finished on the outside. And there are several ways, you know, at this point that we could make a closure for this journal, but it would just need to depend on what the journal is, you know. So we could put 2 eyelets on either side and close it with the fluffy ribbon here on the side. We could put my usual button and bead closure. We could do a panel for the front, wraps around and ties with a ribbon. We could just put a simple ribbon or an elastic around. It just depends on how you want to close at this point. But there's the basic fabric covered, and I call it a semi-soft cover because it is a little bit flexible. So it can kind of ends up molding around the signatures, and kind of no matter how stuffed it gets, it can still kind of close. So it's my favorite kind of cover to make. Thanks very much for being with me today. I appreciate your time always, and your likes and comments. Look for the playlist of all the different kinds of covers I've made, and I'll see you again with a new project.